you go, Hot Rod. You're live.
Am I live?
Should
Did
be.
you put everything on there? Did you title it and everything? Or
Yeah,
you
it's
just
titled. It's got the
thumbnail?
thumbnail.
No, it doesn't. It's fine.
How does it not?
I don't know.
It just showed up while ago.
Alright, let me.
Yeah, well, you get over here and do your thing because I don't want to talk. While ago.
Alright, let me.
Yeah, well, you get over here and do your thing. Sorry, I'm setting it up. So.
I know you're my tech guy.
Yeah, we had a lot of technical problems.
Wait, why am I hearing all this like
All right, there you
that?
go.
We don't need that.
You're good to go.
Okay. Hopefully everybody will come back in. Anthony?
Yep.
Okay. Hey guys, can y'all hear me? I have Anthony on the phone because we had a live scheduled for earlier. Let's see. Okay, we had a live scheduled obviously for what time was it? Like 3 maybe? And 3:30. We have been trying to work out all the kinks of having him up on the panel, and for some reason it just would not work. So I have him on the phone. Anthony has worked with AWP, and since everything has come out, you first showed up on Mel's channel, right? You spoke with Mel, just kind of sharing your experience with AWP, and that's why I wanted to have you on to also share your experience. Also, you worked alongside Jared for the Bill Simmons case. You know him. He offered you a job. You signed contracts and everything, and then afterwards, he just kind of left you hanging, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So after the Bill Simmons case, working with Jared, Jared started to tell the viewers, I want to say at the end of 2021, and again that was air dates of video, so it goes back probably a month or two backlog from when they filmed to when they released. So it's probably like end of 2021, beginning of 2022, Jared started telling fans and viewers that he wanted to spend more time at home and off the road with his family. So he was looking to get another truck, or RV and trailer on the road. And he had sent Doug out with Carson and another gentleman in February and March of 2022. And Doug was recently certified diver in 2021. So Doug didn't have much experience solo diving, and he was the only diver on that trip. So Jared and Doug had contacted me, reached out to me to join him on that trip as well in the beginning of 2022 to help Doug out as a second diver. So after that trip, I was in talks with Jared from the end of that trip till May about a full-time position. In May is when he offered me a full-time position via a phone conversation, and then later on he sent me some contracts, a non-disclosure agreement, non-compete clause in the employee contract
Right.
in July. So that's when I was going to start with them full-time. When I signed the contract, I was going to start full-time paid member mid-September of this year.
Okay. Now, I talked to you the other day on the phone for a little bit, and you guys, I kind of got a little discombobulated with everything going on with trying to set the stream and everything, but this is Anthony, in case I forgot to even say his name. This is Anthony. You can follow him on Twitter, Anthony1994, NY over on Twitter. So, like I said, Bill Simmons, that's where you first got. And you kind of started, you already did a little bit of scuba, but during COVID is when you decided to become further educate your scuba certificates, or I don't even know how you would put that. But during COVID was when you started looking further into it, right? And then you reached out to Jared and a few other YouTubers that did this kind of work, like scuba work, looking for, I guess, people or whatever it is. And you reached out to Jared, and he first brought you in, like you said, on the Bill Simmons case. He was still doing AWP. He was still on AWP and filming a lot when he brought you in on the Bill Simmons. I watched that this morning just kind of. I watched it before, but I wanted to watch it again because I knew I was going to have you on, and I kind of wanted to get a feel for exactly what part you played in that recovery. When did you say that one happened, Bill Simmons?
That was in January, end of January 2021.
End of January 2021.
Yeah, it was like January 24th, 21st to like the 26th was the scheduled time frame that we were going there.
And Doug was not a diver then. He was on the team.
Doug was not a certified diver as of January 2021 when we recovered Bill Simmons. He was there doing a lot of other help and support work with cameras and posting live streams and a lot of rigging with the tow trucks and rigging that with the companies that came to help pull the cars out. He did a lot of the rigging, a lot of help behind the camera as well.
That's the background that Doug comes from, is like tow trucks. But you come from like a diving background.
Correct. Yeah, I was into diving recreational prior to contacting AWP, and once I contacted AWP, I further continued my diving education by getting different certifications so I could be completely certified doing that type of work if there was a case we worked with law enforcement or they didn't want us to dive or we couldn't show or prove proper certification. I wanted to have all of that paperwork and documents up to date so I could prove it and continue to dive in those conditions.
How long have you been following AWP when you reached out to Jared?
I probably only started watching their videos maybe 3 to 4 months before I reached out to him in the end of 2020.
Okay.
For in November or December, I sent him the emails, and a week later, he sent me an email back inviting me on the Bill Simmons case.
And I did ask you. I said the email that I asked you about the email address that you reached out to him on. Is it the same email address that we're seeing with the emails between him and his cousin, which is like AWP support? You said no, it's a different email, but he reached out. Right. He reached out to you about a week later and asked you to work with them on the Bill Simmons case. And that was just like to help out. That was not like a paid gig.
That was 100% volunteer. He also stated in the email that there was going to be a few other volunteers and divers that were going to join up with us, and we were going to be a part of it. And it was a big collaboration, and it was going to be a big show and tell at the end with all the cars that were pulled out. So everybody that was under the impression that was going, it was a volunteer.
Right. And that's the one where they found like 18 cars. They found like 18 cars, and then they found Bill Simmons.
Correct. Yeah. By the luck, that very last day, some of us decided to stay an extra day. That's why not everybody was there with us on that recovery that was there days earlier for all the other car pulls. We decided to stay a day later, and Dennis and Tammy from Team Waters decided to go in a different direction that they had searched, but nobody was really focused on it, based on the current of the river and where people would have thought it was possible to drive into this location was down the boat ramp. And it would have been impossible for the car to be in the location it was if it went in through the boat ramp, because it was 300 yards or 150 yards upstream in very swift currents in the Tennessee River. So there was no physical way this car went in that river through the boat ramp. So most of the time on these cases, the car goes in, floats for 2 to 5 minutes, turtles or sinks as is, doesn't really travel far, let alone upstream. So when you tend to search specific swift water rivers that are narrow and moving, you tend to search a couple hundred feet north upstream from the boat ramp.
Right. What makes sense?
Anywhere from a mile downstream would make sense. But how this car particularly launched through the park into the river it was so uncommon for a car to be in that location that they just had a hunch, let's just search this area and happen to go upstream. And they did. And that's when they found the target on the sonar.
And it was you and one other guy that went down and tied it all off and got the chains all connected to actually bring the car in. Who was the other guy with you? I didn't catch his name, but that was you and one other guy that did all the tying everything up to bring it in, right?
There was actually, I believe, 4 divers. There was Doug, or not, I'm sorry, not Doug. There was Sam, there was Jared, there was Brock the Rock from another YouTube channel, and I forgot this gentleman's name. It was the only time I met him. He was there from Muddy Bottom, something Muddy Bottom from Tennessee. It was a local YouTube channel that was working in that area, and myself. So I'm sorry, there was 5 divers on that particular recovery. And because of the so fast, the swift waters of the current, we had to tie a line to the car to a tree so the divers could safely make it to the vehicle. And we also had to zip line the tanks and the lift bags to the vehicle. So it was a team effort because there was multiple dives done on that car to where 2 people went out, tied off the line. Another 2 divers went out, set the lift bags. Another set of divers went out to fill up the tank. So it was a collaborative effort, but all 5 divers did dive on it to retrieve the car, float it, and get it back to the boat ramp. And with the currents, we couldn't have done it without Dennis and Tammy in the boat because they pretty much held on to the car with their boat while it was floating and the current driving it back to the boat ramp because of the current. So there was probably 7 of us all together physically working to recover that vehicle until we got it to the boat ramp.
Yeah. That was like I said, I watched that this morning just to kind of get a feel of you working with them. After that, you went back home. Y'all worked together on that one, and that one turned out really well. I mean, obviously, because y'all found, who y'all were looking for. And he had been missing for quite some time. So you go back home. And when you left from that one, did Jared say anything like, oh, I'll be in touch? Or did you expect to hear back from him? Or like, oh, maybe not. Who knows?
Well, yes, I did expect to hear from him because of the conversations that took place off camera outside of searching back at the hotel. Like, we were hanging out, and there was comments made about how, Jared was getting pretty popular at this time. I think his channel was, reaching 1 million subs really close at that time. So there was talks of him not letting other YouTube channels and or different volunteers join up with him on site for different locations for a multitude of reasons, being he was starting to work with a lot more families and law enforcement, so he didn't want to bring in unvetted random people to meet him and have, just 10 or 15 fans and viewers show up on site to join him for a dive. So he kind of mentioned that if you weren't in the circle or had met up with him by this point now, he probably wasn't going to introduce more new people because of that. So I had known that he said, yeah, if we're ever in the area, you ever want to do it, you're more than welcome to join us whenever you want. But it was always based on, it would be you're dying to come out there and travel, you're dying to stay, and it would be a volunteer work. So it would be completely out-of-pocket experience if I wanted to join up in the future. So we had left it as, hey, if you're ever in the Northeast or in my area, let me know. I'd be more than happy to join up. I'd love to. I had a great time. Right. So that's where we left it. And that's how it stayed for maybe just over a year. And then that's when Doug had reached out to me in February of 2022 stating that, or March, stating that they were going to be working a case in the Northeast. He needed help diving. Jared wasn't going to be on that trip. And that's when I had called Jared to confirm to make sure it was true and legit. And Jared said, yeah, come on out. Whether you fly, rent a car, we'll pay for your rent a car, you can stay in the RV, whatever food or drinks or any dive gear you may need, we'll take care of it. So that trip was all expenses paid, but again, it was volunteer work.
Right.
Completely unpaid.
And one thing that you told me when we spoke on the phone the other day is like the original crew that started with Jared didn't get paid at first, right? Like the original crew that started.
No, when I had started with them, when I first met up with them in the Bill Simmons case, Jared pretty much at that point only had a few regulars that were working all the time. In the beginning, it was just him and his daughter, Kiki, the camera girl. Then he got, I don't know the order, but I believe he got Dan as like an editor / cameraman, and then Dan started being the cameraman. Then Sam joined up, and then it was just the three of them for a while. I want to say almost a year and a half, maybe a little longer. But it was Dan, Sam, and Jared, and the three of them would be on the road for a month and a half, a couple of weeks. They come off for a month. They go back on the road for a month, and they did that for a good year. And then once they planned that big trip in Tennessee, I believe that was the first time Doug joined AWP on the road full time, because prior to that, Doug had only done local Oregon pulls from Jared, because Doug just happened to be the first tow company Jared had called in Oregon when he found his first car. He was like, hey, I'm a YouTube channel. I'm pulling out cars. Would you mind donating your time or whatever to come help pull this car out? Doug had owned the tow company. Doug was the owner of that tow company, came out and pulled that car out for free. That's how their relationship started. So for the next few months or a few weeks, when Jared found a car, he'd call up Doug and his tow company. Doug would send a guy out, or himself would come out, pull the car out, get recognition, put his name on YouTube.
Right.
And then after that, once Jared started going on the road, that Doug was off camera. That was the last time he worked until the Tennessee trip, when Doug came on the road, because it was a big event, show and tell, lots of cars, inviting all these people. It was going to be a good time. So Doug joined. And it seemed like from that Tennessee trip, Doug's been in the RV and stayed. And a few months later is when the whole Sam and Jared drama arose. And then Doug had expressed interest in diving in Tennessee, stating he wanted to become a diver, he wanted to do this stuff. So right that summer was, once it got warmer in Oregon, that's when he decided to get certified that summer. And that's when the whole Sam and Jared drama started unfolding. And now Doug's a newly certified diver. He steps right in, and now Dan had left by that point. Yeah. And then he had hired, I apparently stole Carson or poached Carson, however you want to call it, from that other media company that he was doing work for.
Yes, I saw that.
Became the Doug, Carson, and then Josh was involved as well. So then it became them on the road. And then Jared decided he's going to get a second RV on the road. And that's when Nick hired on. And, he hired on Devin, another cameraman and editor and behind the scenes guy. But there was only, from July when I had signed the contract, it was going to be myself, Jared, Doug, and Nick. Those were the four certified divers.
Right.
Then there was, Josh, Carson, Devin, and some other behind the scenes camera.
Did he pay for Doug to get certified in diving, since this was going to be, he was going to be doing this essentially for the team, to do it for Jared's business? Or was that something that, if you wanted to change up what you were doing for the team, or
I'm pretty sure Doug paid for that on his own, because I had brought up to Jared, because there was a certification that I didn't have in Tennessee, which was full face mask certification. And I wanted to get that when I started in September, so I could have the comms, the camera, and you could hear my voice underwater. So I wanted to make sure I had that full face certification. Right. And I had brought that up to Jared, and I was like, hey, I would like to get the certification. Is that something you're willing to take care of? Or can I expense it? How do you guys work? What's the procedures for something like that? And he pretty much said, oh, well, we don't believe in the certifications. It's not needed. It's a Patty's pyramid scheme. And these are more of the signs that led me to believe that Jared was very frugal with his money. This was just another red flag of his frugalness that stood out to me, was he wasn't willing to pay for my additional certification for the full face mask.
He said it wasn't needed, that it's like a pyramid?
Yeah, he believes that Patty is a pyramid scheme, and a lot of divers in the diving community do, because
Okay.
they charge for different certifications, and I'm holding up air quotes because some of the certifications Patty charges for out there include underwater pumpkin carving, mermaid, like different weird certifications
Oh
that
wow.
that you have to pay for to get to
Yeah.
do some of these things. If you want to do some of these things with a company underwater or a dive excursion. So if you want to do certain things on a dive excursion, you have to pay for that certification.
Right.
So if you wanted to do it recreational, there's certain certifications that are needed, but aren't recommended. And Jared believes that the full face mask, the dry suit, the advanced open water certification, which allows a diver to dive below 60 feet, he didn't believe in. So every dive that Sam and Jared dove over 60 feet was breaking the PADI regulations for scuba diving within those requirements. So the basic certification is open water diving, and you could dive to 60 feet. That's what Doug and Jared held. Then there's advanced open water, which allows you to dive up to 120 feet. Anything beyond 120 feet is decompression diving, is completely a whole nother ball game. That's serious diving. So they were diving out of the scope of the 60 feet limit. So they didn't believe in getting those certifications because they thought, oh, I could just get the experience and the knowledge on my own without paying Patty to get the certification for it.
Right.
So when Jared didn't want to pay for my full face certification, I'm pretty sure Jared, and again, I can only assume this, that Jared would make Doug pay for his own personal diving basic certification, that anybody that wanted to go diving on a cruise, vacation, wherever, it's the basic open water certification that I'm sure he would have made him pay for it out of his own pocket.
Gotcha. Okay, so you did the Bill Simmons, and you worked with him again after that, right? Didn't you do two? You did two of them, or was it just the Bill Simmons and then?
Well, there was one case for Tennessee, which was the Bill Simmons case, but we were there for a week diving on 15 different cars, pulling out dozens of cars.
Right. Gotcha.
Then there was the Philadelphia, New Jersey, Maryland trip that was with Doug and myself. Jared was off the road at that time. We had worked in that week, I want to say like 5 or 6 different cases during that week, but we were only able to solve the James Amabile case that week. Now, so altogether, I want to say I worked on I think like 10 or 15 cases, but it was only 2 recoveries, 2 solved cases.
Gotcha. So at some point, he does offer you like a paid job, but you had a job.
I did. I was working throughout my entire volunteer career with AWP up until I signed the contract of this year in August, or July rather. I had a full-time job. I was working. I used, vacation, sick time. Sometimes my employer was generous and just gave me the unpaid time off because of it was for a good cause, and they knew about it, so they were willing to let me take that time off.
Right.
So I did, and then once there was the negotiations in May of a full-time position, what it can pay me, blah blah blah, what were the terms and conditions. Then when he sent me the actual contracts to sign July 30th, that's when I went and put my 2-week notice in. And
which you were promised a job. You were promised a job.
I was promised a job, yeah. After that, I put my 2 weeks in. I signed the contract, thought that's it. I was employed at this point.
Right.
And then I put my 2 weeks in. That was, during that and expiring, I had reached out to Jared the end of August to say, hey, and this was like 2 days after he found Kail. I said, hey, Jared, I know you guys are busy. I'm just trying to figure out what my travel details are so I can start figuring out how I'm going to pack all this. I had tons of scuba gear to pack, a lot of clothes, winter clothes. So I had a lot of stuff to get ready before this long 2-month trip on the road.
Right.
So I had reached out to him, and that's when he informed me that they would no longer need my services. They're going to go in a different direction. And that's when he left me without a job that I had just put my 2-week notice in.
Well, and something that I found interesting that you told me prior on the phone is that when I think you said when you reached out to AWP, Doug ended up getting back to you, and then when you reached out to AWP about the employment, like, hey, it's getting close to time, like I kind of need my like travel plans and everything. You reached out to Jared, like you text him, and then Doug called you back and told you that they were going a different direction, right? It wasn't even Jared, correct? Jared had Doug.
No, he didn't even have, I don't even think he had the guts to tell me himself. So he had made Doug do that. So when I had reached out to Jared, sending him that text message, you're busy, what's my travel details? Like within 3 to 5 minutes, I get a message from Doug saying, hey, you got a minute? I'm going to call you in a couple of minutes. Basically, I'm going to give you a call in a couple of minutes. Stand by. Doug calls me, and he's the one that tells me, hey, we no longer need your services. We're going in a different direction. I'm sorry. I know your promises. I feel so bad. All I can say is I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. Blah, 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 blah.
And Doug wouldn't give you a reason. Doug wouldn't give you a reason why. And then
not at all.
You reached out to Doug more recently, right? And he said he still couldn't tell you why, due to like probably like an NDA or whatever. He still really couldn't give you any details as to why they didn't go forward with having you on the team.
No, but he did say that when he could, he would tell me why. So to me, based on his cryptic coded message that he sent me, I feel like there's a reason different from what I was told or what I believe.
Right.
So I would like to know what that reason is. It may not be a reason Doug would like to say or state publicly. I'm not sure what that reason is, but Doug kind of told me that he would tell me when he could, when the time was right, so to speak.
Yeah, he's obviously got to make sure it's something that he could even say, because who knows, I mean, sometimes when you sign an NDA, you're even bound to talk to other employees about things that are going on.
And there was a clause in the NDA that certain things couldn't be discussed with other employees.
Right.
So it wasn't like, okay, you're fired now, but you can still talk to employees.
Right.
You just couldn't even do that. So I think that's what has some of the people concerned about even communicating within each other to try to start something new, is because of that stupid clause in the contract. And I did contact an attorney, and I'm going to find out if and when I can release these contracts, because I will.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time whether this does affect my case and I have to wait, or it doesn't affect my case and I have no case. I'm still going to release them. The only thing that would be edited or redacted, obviously, would be my personal information or details and Jared's personal information and details.
Right. Because essentially what happened here is, I mean, during COVID, you get certified to, you get the proper certifications to work with AWP. You reach out to them. They bring you on for some volunteering, which took you putting in sick time, anything that you could to go work with them volunteering, and you maintained your regular employment. And then when they reached out saying, hey, we'll pay you. And he basically, he paid you enough to bring you on board. So you're like, yeah, great. I would love to do that. It was for a great cause. So of course you will want to do it. And then right before it's time to go, when you contact him. Oh, and another thing is you had actually sent him like some information like, hey, I'm getting XYZ done, like some furthering in your certifications. And you send him that, and he sends you back a picture of like him and his daughter. And he's like at the movie theater, which was a really weird response.
Yeah. So during the talks of me asking about if and when would AWP pay for these additional certifications and equipment, because I had a dry suit. I didn't have the same O3 dry suit. I had a BCD, jacket style BCD. I didn't have the same back plate and wing Hollis BC that they had. And that type of gear is more productive to doing that type of diving work. Not only that, but I kind of wanted to match for continuity as well in the videos. So I also went out and upgraded a lot of my scuba gear because that, and for safety reasons, if Doug's computer broke, he could use mine, or if my computer broke, I could use Doug's, because they were the same exact computers. It was the same exact backplate and wing. You know, there was, we try to make this gear interchangeable, so for redundancies as well. So I had spent a lot of money on new certifications, new dive gear, and during the process of this slow process happening, I had acquired the full face mask certification. I sent Jared a copy of my PADI certification card and details, because this was in the process of him saying, hey, I need your license for the insurance to drive the RV. Send me your PADI certifications for the insurance to keep on file. You know, sign the W-2, like all the normal paperwork you do when you're getting employed. I was slowly giving, or he was asking for, via text. So I had, once I received the certification, I had sent him a picture of it. And he didn't respond with any words, just 2 photos. One of him and his daughter in front of like a drive-in movie theater in the sunset, and his younger daughter, who I've never met, never knew the name of the younger daughter, and a photo of like popcorn and a soda with the background of the drive-in movie theater and sunset. And there was no context to it. And I was like, okay, did you get my certification? You know, like,
That's
it just seemed odd or weird.
Yeah, it's a really strange response. I mean, considering you don't know his children, you're just someone that's about to come on board, and you're sending him like these certifications that you just got, and you're like, hey, soon to be boss, look what, you know, here's my stuff that you need. And he's like, oh, here's a picture of me and my daughter, with no wording, like, hey, well, we're out doing XYZ. Thank you for sending me your certification, or thank you for, you know, sending in the stuff that I need. It's a picture of him and his daughter, who was probably what, like 9 years old, 10, I don't know, a young daughter. I mean,
no, so I sent him the picture of the certification card, and he sends me those 2 photos with no words. And it wasn't like, you know, iMessages, he has an iPhone, I have an iPhone. When you send multiple photos in it, it'll group them together in a text message. These were 2 individual photos sent at 2 separate text messages. And then once I got those, I took it as a sign, like, don't bother me, I'm with my family. So I reply, and again, no words with those 2 photos. Just, I write back, oh, what a perfect evening. Go enjoy the family, enjoy the rest of your weekend. That was it.
That was it.
Then the next message I get from him, that was July 23rd. The next message I get from him is a picture of a military communication wireless transducer for communications underwater for scuba. The next 2 days later. So he never mentioned anything about the certification or the pictures he sent me. Just
super strange.
Onto a new subject, talking about communications for underwater comms.
That's very strange.
Yeah.
No.
And just to clarify, everything that I've said in this interview and other ones that I've done in the past, I'm one of the people that I don't delete my messages. I don't delete my emails. So I have every email I've ever sent and received from Jared. I have every text message I've ever sent and received from him. I have all the contracts. I got receipts for everything I'm saying. So if there is any questions or discrepancies, within due time, i.e. his legal charges and allegations and any potential further employment legal allegations he may face, once that the dust clears or settles from those 2, I will be releasing all of this to prove what I'm saying is 100% truthful.
Yeah, that's something that we talked about, because I had asked him, you know, about like his non-disclosure and like his all the agreements that he signed, and right now he's got to double check with like his attorney and the DA to see if it's anything they need or he don't need to release. Also, he has all of his messages between him and Jared, and there are messages that mention certain things that are pretty interesting. He just don't know if he can release them publicly right now, because he needs to double check with his attorney for that. And he's hopefully within the next few days he'll know. He's in discussion with like the DA and his attorney about what he can and he can't release and how it may affect anything. But he's got messages between him and Jared, because Jared did tell you that rumors may be coming up, that you may hear rumors about him. And this was after he already took a step back, but nobody really knew why, right? Like nobody, people just assumed that he was taking a step back to spend more time with his family.
Correct. And the more I looked into it, the more after people started coming out with new things, I started going back through all my communications with him. And then once I found out, I was like, I found out that I may have a reason or legal legs to stand on for the wrongful termination or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So I started going through all my evidence and receipts and downloading messages, backing them up, making sure I had them saved, the whole conversations. And in the process of doing it, that's when I found the weird photos of him and his daughter that he sent me. And I also had stated in others interviews that Jared gave me a heads up about some possible allegations I may hear about within his family from others. He didn't specify exactly what those were, when any of those might have happened, just that I could hear rumors about him and his family that was all in the past, that was all known within his family, and that it was everything was okay. I had nothing to worry about, but he just wanted to give me the heads up if anything he heard, he wanted to give me the heads up for it. I didn't think anything of it.
When would you say he told you that? Like, oh, you might hear rumors.
That was in May.
May.
That phone call was in May when he offered me the job verbally over the phone. When we talked about the work scope, how much I was going to get paid, all the working details, all of that good stuff. That was on that conversation. He gave me the heads up. And then when I was downloading all my messages, I was looking to find out when he told me about the job, and I knew it was what time it was, what month. And when I was going through that month's messages, I saw that right after we got off the phone call, he sent me a message, and I can't state what was in that message, but I can state that it not only proved what the context of the conversation we had prior to that message was, because he continues the comments, he continues that topic in the text message. So once I saw that a few days ago, that's what made me reach out to the DA to find out if that's something that they would be interested in knowing about or seeing. I reached out earlier today, and I did not hear a response back yet today, but I want to find out from them if this is something that they would like or need. If not, can I release this publicly type of thing? And until I know that, I don't want to release what was said in those particular messages.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I told him that too. I mean, of course, I would love to have him release something like that on my channel, obviously, but I told him, he needs to make sure it's something that he can release. And two, going back to the job, when Doug called and basically let you go, you had already put in your notice at your other job, and then so you lost your job basically. When your 2 weeks was up at the job that you were at, you were done. They didn't let you stay. You lost your job because you had already put in your 2 week notice. So are you employed right now? Or are you not employed still due to that?
No, I am. That is what happened. I am currently unemployed. So once you put your 2 week notice in and that expires, there's nothing you can do with a company. So I had no recourse or ramifications other than to go find a new job. And at that point, I was unemployed because I thought I was starting 2 weeks later with Jared. So I had left myself a 2 week window, 2 or 3 week window to get things squared away, pay bills. I was going to be out of town for a month and a half. I wanted to try to get my early voting done. Like, I was going to be on the road for all of this. So I wanted to make sure I got things squared away before I went.
Right.
And so I was going through all of that, and that left me unemployed. So I would wish I was so close to having the dream job of being able to dive professionally, to get paid to dive for work. So that was the ultimate goal, and that kind of dream got ripped out and crushed because that's what I was wanting to do.
Right.
So I just wish there was an opportunity to continue doing that. So if anybody knows of any, diving opportunities or search and rescue or recovery work that's in the Northeast or in the U.S., please reach out because I would love to continue diving in some form of fashion.
I think what everybody is hoping is, the team that has worked with AWP, Nick, Doug, you, Josh, all of you guys can kind of come together. But right now, they don't know what they can do because of the non-compete forms, the contracts that they sign. Like they don't know exactly what they could do. But you are friends with Sam, right?
Yeah, I've spoken with Sam about this subject, and it's something that he wants to do in the future. But again, like you, it's a fine line. Like, how do you do that without coming off exploiting the families or exploiting the situation, or how do you do that type of work without towing that line to where you can still get the recognition and the views to help support and fund an operation like that? How do you do that being 100% transparent with financials and numbers and what donations come in, what they go for, and what that might look like? And it's just something that neither one of us could do financially right now. And he wanted to try to get back to working on his channel and getting out and doing other things in the environment, whether it's cleanup or search and rescue, I'm not sure, but he said he wanted to do something like that in the spring or summer of next year. And
Right.
he would like me to join, he said, but how does that look? He's on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. Neither one of us have an RV or trailer to keep his boat and the dive gear and all that stuff, and it takes a lot of resources to keep that kind of operation on the road.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's going to be. I mean, when Jared started out, he was smaller and he kind of built his way into it. It seemed like he was pretty lucky that it happened the way that it did. But now, you have all these guys, but they're all kind of spread out, and you just don't know how, what that would look like to continue or how y'all could continue with the contracts and everything. But your personal experience with Jared, the time that you did get to work with him, did you ever get any weird vibes? Like maybe he's fake on camera, different on camera, um, like he exploited the families at all? Did you ever
Well,
get any feelings like that?
some things that did stick out to me was, one would be, he was the same personality he was on camera as off. The only difference to that, I would say, was he would lean into the impression of being broke, as AWP doesn't have the money to stay on the road. We need your help and donations. He leaned into that. AWP was more than well off financially to stay on the road and not need continuing donations the way that they did, the way that they were asking for, the way that it was put out there. So there were things like that stood out to me, and everybody kind of understood that you have to get the whole story, as much of the story as you could, whether it was filming the police arriving to the scene, whether it was filming the family coming to the scene, or them getting out, or them hearing the news getting broken. Like, people want to say that Jared pushed or asked or knew that he wanted that quote unquote money shot, but no, he just wanted to get the full story or be able to tell the story. And if that crossed the line by others feeling he was too invasive in doing so, yeah, that happened all the time. People's feelings didn't like it or appreciate how he crossed the line in some cases with getting too close or just evading their privacy in some way that they felt that he's doing them wrong. But it was, you thought or felt that it was for the greater good of the show, for the channel, for getting more viewers, for getting the message out there. So there was not brainwashed, but you knew or you understood why things were getting done, because it had to happen to complete the story, or to get as much views as you could, to get as much revenue as you could, to keep doing what you're doing.
Right. And I asked you too, like the families coming on, did they sign anything? Were they okay with Jared being like there when they were having those intimate moments of crying? Were they fine with the cameras? And you said they never signed anything, and a lot of times he would tell them, like, if you need a moment, just let us know.
Yeah, he would tell all the families, hey, we're filming the story. And this is when we first got out, before the cameras were rolling. And a lot of the families at this point understood and were reaching out to Jared and wanted their help and needed their help. So,
and they knew about the channel. They knew he was coming to LA. Yeah.
Most of them did. Yeah. So they were almost, if Jared said, hey, sign this, they probably would have. But that never happened. He just said, hey, you guys, I'm sure you know who we are, what we do. This is what we do. we're going to record the story. We're documents. We're storytellers. So if you need a moment or you feel uncomfortable, just let us know. And then that was it. And then they would film and do everything that was said. And they didn't hide anything. Did they say things off camera or ask questions off camera? Of course, but they didn't hide anything.
Right. We had a few questions. Someone, Eddie G asked, is there any chance Jared knew where like the people were, or had found them maybe, but continued the search for a little bit just to get like more footage for a video? Like maybe they found them right off the bat, but acted like they didn't.
No, if you notice in some of their videos,
quick.
They would almost be bashful about how quick they would find some of these cases.
Yeah.
So they'd be on scene for an hour, and some of the videos, there was a running timing clock. All right, we pulled up, it's been 15 minutes. You know, diver went in at 35 minutes in the mark, and like they would time it. Oh, we were on scene for an hour and 10 minutes, and case is solved. You know what I mean? So there wasn't times where they would do anything for better footage, but there would be times where they got a target, they found a target, everybody knew it was a vehicle in the boat or even the people on shore, but they would scan it 10, 15, 20 more times for another 10 or 15 minutes to try to get the best looking picture on sonar of the vehicle.
So that would happen. Yeah.
Sonar is an interpretation. You're reading data image from a program. So you have to interpret the data you're seeing on the screen. And a lot of the times, shadows are cast and make images look like nothing or a blob of nothing. But if you run over that image 5 more times in a different direction, it could pop up clear as day as a car because you hit that vehicle with the sound waves in such a way that the transceiver received them in such a clear way that the program is able to display a crystal clear picture on the screen of what that image is. And if you don't hit that object in the right way, it's not going to look like a vehicle. It's not going to look like a car. And that's why, unfortunately, law enforcement will miss a lot of targets sometimes because they'll drive over a car that just went in the water 10 days ago, 2 days ago, clear as day. It's a vehicle. You can see tires and everything. But if they hit it at the wrong angle, there's shadows. It looks nothing like a vehicle. A vehicle could look like a log, a bush, a hole in the ground. It's a rock. Like it's an interpretation. You have to interpret what you're seeing on the screen. And a lot of the times they would continue to scan to confirm what their hunch or what they think they're interpreting. And they do that by getting a more clearer image on the sonar. So there's been times, they'll find an image, they'll drop a magnet on it. Yeah, that's a vehicle. It's sticking. I know it's something, but let's continue to scan to try to get that good, clear sonar picture.
Yeah. As a viewer, it is cooler because like I said, I've been watching a lot of their videos since all this happened. Well, really, the Kylie Rodney case is really what brought me to the channel, and I kind of started doing like a deep dive into like watching all their videos. And as a viewer, when you're watching them in the boat and they're going over something and you see the sonar, it is much cooler as a viewer when you can tell that is a vehicle under there versus when they're trying to show you. So that is a better shot.
It doesn't take a seasoned viewer to notice that when they watch a video with the sonar that they'll see it and they'll show you, oh, go over it again or try the down imaging or let's switch to the live imaging to see if we can get a better picture for the viewers. Like, if anything, that was the only thing they did extra was just to try to get a better picture. And that's kind of like a lady taking the sonogram for a baby. The lady could wipe that thing over the belly 10 times, but it's how she held it at perfect angle to get that right picture of the face or the profile of the infant. So if anything, they were just trying to get a clearer image of what they knew was already underneath them.
Right. Eddie G asked, how often did he show hostility, unprofessionalism with other divers outside of AWP? Were you the only one? I guess he's talking about Jared, like unprofessionalism. Obviously, in the way that he hired you, then let you go without even giving you the courtesy of a phone call. Did you ever see him, mistreat any of the divers when you were out there? Any cameraman or anyone like that? Did you ever see him do anything where you're like, well, that wasn't nice?
For the most part, no. There was a lot of, he was very upfront with people on, hey, this is a volunteer, this is what we're doing, you're more than welcome to join. But people kind of knew what was the story when they were involved. So the only really mistreating that I really saw would be what he did to me in the employment, what he did to one other gentleman that happened to be in Tennessee who was on some of the live streams, a gentleman named Roy, who brought his boat from Missouri, drove a few hours across the country to come volunteer. And later on that summer, after the Tennessee trip, Jared had reached out to Roy saying, hey, we're going to be in your area, Missouri, a couple hours away. You want to join up? Roy said, yeah. Roy drove out there all the way with his boat, and Jared never showed up, never told him he wasn't coming, never responded to him, just kind of ghosted him and made this guy drive a couple hours with his boat. So he did that. But mistreating cameramen or divers, no. But he did show lack of safety and concern or maybe just lack of concern or lack of awareness of how dangerous some of these situations these divers were diving in. Like one that Sam talked about with the snowcat. Like, you could clearly see on camera when he did the quote unquote training video with Doug, where Doug had an issue with his mask when he dove down to 100 feet with Jared. Like, that, he's not a certified instructor. He shouldn't have been doing that. Like,
right.
It's lack of awareness, I would say, in some situations where it led to putting people in dangerous situations that luckily didn't turn out dangerous. But you could kind of see it in some of the videos on camera that he's just too relaxed or complacent in some of the situations. And you could tell that it didn't matter to him, because he would tell you, you're diving at your own risk. Don't dive outside your comfort level. If you're not comfortable doing this, don't do it. So he told all that to all the divers that showed up, don't do it because I'm doing it. We may be going in the water together, but we're not buddy divers. When you're down there, you're a solo diver. You're diving by yourself. Don't come to me if you need air. Like, be self-sufficient when you're down there, because it's so dark, you can't see anybody. If you ran out of air, there's no way you're going to know where Jared is 3 feet away, because it's that dark in some of these dives. So you're down there by yourself, and he pretty much told you and gave you that warning when you dove. Yeah.
Someone said
it was dive at your own risk.
Someone said word has it is Jared had no respect for Jacob or Nug.
They were very, very friendly in the Tennessee, and that was the only interaction I had with Jared and these other gentlemen together, being Doug, Jacob from KS Divers. The only time they were all together and I was with them was in Tennessee. He was very respectful and generous to all these people, because he would be in a live stream on his AWP channel, and he'd tell all the viewers, the thousands of people that were watching this live all day, because he did live streams for 8-10 hours watching people pull cars out all day. He would be on his channel for a couple hours, and he'd say, all right, we're going to continue the stream on Nug's channel or Sam's channel. If you want to watch, go to their channel. So, like, he did that for days with all these YouTubers, switching, live streams to different channels. And to me, that seemed like he was doing that for their benefit, to help subscribers, to help attention, the more of the collaborations, the better. And he was very friendly with all of them. He'd invited all of us, at the end, to come to certain places for dinner that were being sponsored for dinner for free food for the guys. Or he'd say, oh, we're going to be at the hot tub. Everybody come join, hang out at the hot tub. And so he was very nice and respectful to all the other YouTube channels, even to myself.
Yeah. Well, I did notice that. I did notice where he promoted like Sam's channel, and like him and Sam had a contest to see who could find the most cars. And he was like, to find out how many cars Sam found, go to his channel. So it did seem like he promoted other channels. So in my opinion, I felt like he didn't view them as competition.
No, definitely not at that time. At this point, I think Depths of History was just reaching 100,000 subscribers. Jared was just creeping on 1 million. So he was like the big brother or the uncle to these small channels. And when they showed up, they were all, oh, how do you do this? What do you do with this? They were picking his brain. They were like in awe of Jared because he was a big YouTuber. They wanted to do and be just like him with their channels.
Absolutely.
It seemed like.
Absolutely. Did you ever meet any of Jared's family? Like I saw that his sister came out. Someone said his mom worked in the office. I don't know if that's true. I was going to ask you if you knew anything about that. But did you ever meet any of his family or really hear anything about his family?
No, I've never met any other of his family members. Like I said, I only saw the one picture of his daughter that he texted me. I did speak with a couple of the ladies in the office via email and text about, W-2s, insurance stuff like that during the hiring process and via group messages. But to know what name correlates to his mother, or if it was his sister-in-law or his wife, or who I was actually speaking to,
Yeah,
I don't know who it was.
got you.
But I do have their names, but I don't know
Who
what the
they are.
relationships are with. Yeah.
Right. Now, you found out when did you find out that you weren't going to go with AWP, and how far from that until the allegations come out about Jared? What was the time frame?
I found out I wasn't getting the job August 24th when I
Yep.
texted with Doug and Jared, texted Jared, got the reply from Doug, and then called Jared back. That was, I want to say it was 2 days after he found Kylie, and that's when I found out I was not getting the employment that day.
So that day is when you
August.
found out, and then I guess it was about 2.5 months later. I mean, I guess you found out about the allegations when everybody else did, right? When they started hitting the news.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what it was. Like when I think it was Mel had first broke the story of the documents, and when I saw charges, it instantly clicked to that conversation he had told me about in May when he offered me the job about those possible allegations I made here. Well, once I saw that, I put two and two together, and all these things started clicking in my head. Oh, that makes sense. That's why Jared wasn't on camera. That's why he needed me to go out and help Doug on that trip, because that was right after those emails that supposedly broke in February. So, there were all these things started flooding back to me the moment I knew about the charges, indictments on November 3rd.
How did you feel when you seen it? Like, knowing you being around Jared, because when I first saw the allegations, I'm not gonna say I don't believe of the victims, but I was shocked because a lot of people looked at Jared and AWP kind of like a hero for literally even watching it earlier today when I was watching the Bill Simmons case, and he's like hugging on family members and they're like crying on his shoulder. And then when the hug is broken, he's got tears in his eyes. And so it obviously people looked at him as like a hero. So when I first heard the story, I was like, oh my goodness, are we serious here? Like, is this real? Like, this man that like has done so much good, did he really do this? Like, has he really hurt, his family members like that? And I just, I'm not gonna say I struggled to believe it, but I struggled to hear it, I guess you could say. So did you have any feelings like that? Like, what? Oh my God, I can't even believe this.
I mean, once I heard it, I was disgusted. That's my first initial response, was disgust. And then to find out it was, his family members on top of that, it tore my heart open. And then, then there was different emotions coming in. There was anger, then there was pain, and then I was like, well, I thought about it. I'm like, I didn't feel any red flags that would lean towards that. And then I'm like, because he was so genuine and seemed to care and was his self on camera and off camera. And then I thought, well, maybe he was overcompensating or trying to overdo that for who he felt or thought he truly was inside, or trying to right so many wrongs in his life that this is the way he felt to do it. I don't know, but I felt that it was a tragic situation for not only the victims, the survivors, everybody involved in that, but for the families that aren't going to get the help of AWP, and for the families and lives that counted on AWP to support their families. I mean, then I felt like it's a good thing that it's shut down, because he's gonna get the justice, and he's gonna serve his time for the crimes, and then you know, I just felt there was so many different emotions going on, and it was different waves. Like one moment I was happy he was going through this because of what he did to me, and then I realized, but what about all the people that aren't going to get the help if AWP stops? And then it doesn't, detract from what good others in that organization have done and want to continue to do.
Yeah, because I think you had said something about like they had like a long list of people reaching out to them for help. So like had word not come out now, like they probably had a calendar for the next probably year and a half of cases they could work and people they could help that now will be shut down, that won't happen. Which does suck. That it would be nice if Jared said, "Listen, I'll bow out. Y'all start over. I'm not going to hold y'all to y'all's non-compete forms or contracts. Like, we did a lot of good, and I don't want that to stop. And I know I can't carry that on, and I can't continue because of what I've done. I got to pay the price for that. But if y'all want to go forward and continue, I'm not going to take y'all to court or anything like that." Someone said, did he assign a new CEO in hopes of keeping AWP going while he was charged?
Well, that is possible. There is a new CEO, as from what I was told and from the group messages. But as of July 29th, when he signed those contracts, it was signed Jared's CEO. I do know that there's documents proving that he put I believe his original house that was paid off into a trust. So no matter what the outcome is of this case or any legal financial obligations he may have or any lawsuit obligations, that house is protected under the trust. I'm not sure about the new $1.2 million house that he just purchased. Records show what the case or outcome of that is, but he was very well off with the donations, and I can't imagine that there aren't tons of viewers, monthly members, or families, or I'm not sure what the laws are with donating money, but I can assure you that there was lots of misappropriation of funds, if that is the case with AWP. But I guarantee you, he was misappropriating a lot of funds, funneling it into himself.
Wow, because he was
based on the assets and what he complained and said to all the viewers of how much we make or how much he's making or where the donations go and what that money's being spent for, and his budget that he had for the year that he said in multiple videos and live streams that this is my budget for the year, but yet 2 months later we get a flat tire, we're going to throw up a live stream and beg for donations to help get us back on the road. Or are there any free mechanics or people that will come out and help us for free right now? We're stuck on the side of the road, when they could have easily called a tow truck company or anybody to just come take care of it. No problem, no fuss. But no, let's throw out another live stream. Let's put on a show for the viewers that we're stuck. We need your help. We're going to help this case. But they didn't need that. They had a huge budget for the year. Why do you need to beg for a live stream to get a tire fixed on the side of the road?
His budget was like
things like that.
Wasn't his budget also like $1.2 or $1.3 million for this year?
That's what he stated very, very publicly on his channel, that's what AWP was willing to put forward for the calendar year of 2022 to put out one and also add an additional second RV and trailer on the road to search and help these families. That's what he said publicly. Also, while asking for donations, while stating I have a $1.3 million budget this year, but here's my donation.
Yeah, and you said a lot of things would be done for free. Like if they needed something like work done, like, oh, well, you do the work and we'll shout you out on the channel. Basically like promotions. So a lot of the work that he did get would be free, or he would, like the flat tire situation, if y'all had a flat tire, they would jump on a live stream. Oh, we have a flat. You guys help us out. This is like your donations to fix this flat is what keeps AWP on the road doing the good that we do. So he's very manipulative to the fans to basically kind of pressure them or make them feel like, oh, they need to donate. Like, oh, yeah, donate so they can continue doing what they're doing. But even without the tons of donations that they got, just the revenue they were bringing in on YouTube, they could have continued.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And they could have continued on that revenue, no problem. They would lean into the donations, and that's what Jared would like to keep up that appearance that AWP didn't have all this money to continue and that's why he leaned into the donations, and
Right.
he stated it very publicly. And getting the whole second trailer on the road, the new wraps for both the trailers, the new light kits to go in the trailers, the upgraded RVs with the off-road suspension and tires and brakes supposedly that was getting put on. Like, a lot of that work was either done 100% free by just advertisement and dropping the links in the description and shouting them out on their videos, or it was heavily discounted for, again, shouting them out or dropping links and vice versa. But he would do that all the time on the road, but he would lean into that these are donations, help keep us on the road, help pay for the trailers or lights, our gear, all of that stuff. He would say was paid for and given to him by the donations, which it is, but it was a lot more money that was being donated than what he was publicly stating.
Right. One thing that I think from listening to everyone really speak on Jared is that he was all about money, like making as much money as he could, all while portraying still that he was broke, basically.
Yeah, it was the optimization of how much money could he make, and he was very smart at that.
Right. Someone asked, Eddie asked, were you a part of the things with Brooke Allensworth?
No, I was not on that case, but I did obviously watch it as a viewer and speak to some of the employees about that, because I was still in contact with them and friends, and also from the stuff that came out recently about it. I can say that when going back to reading an image on sonar, that a lot of people think they see that big black heavy dot. They think that that's an object. They think it's a medicine ball, or I heard some other things in comments that black dot could just simply be a shadow of one little item that's not even the shape of a circle, but it will cast a shadow in the shape of a circle. So again, reading sonar is an interpretation, just like it is reading an X-ray or a sonogram. So things are going to cast shadows. So when you send the sound wave into an item or a subject, it bounces off of that subject back to the transducer on the boat or wherever it's located. So it technically doesn't know what's behind that object. And in doing so, it casts that as a black spot because the system doesn't know. It didn't get a reading of the sound waves penetrating that item, going through it, hitting the ground and coming back. The sound waves hit that item, came back, and anything below that item is cast as a black blob, but it's just a shadow. So most black solid images on a sonar are shadows, not an actual object.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one, the Brooke Allensworth, because he said, if so, what's the truth behind that? So I'm assuming it has something to do with the sonar. Maybe I guess they thought they saw it or something. Is that what you're referencing?
That's the case. That's the case with the barrel.
Was she in a barrel?
That's the one you're pertaining to, right?
I don't know. Someone in the comments asked it, like the Brooke Allensworth.
Yeah, because Jared, I think that's the one. In the video, Jared said, "Oh, we dropped the magnet and it didn't stick." It's because the magnet didn't stick doesn't mean she wasn't in a barrel, because there was plastic barrels at the time. There's not always just metal barrels, and that's something as myself as a viewer and a diver from the experience that I thought, well, why didn't Jared, say that, or why didn't that pop into his head? Because he should have known. He was very smart enough to realize that, but again, maybe he didn't think of it, or it just slipped his mind in the moment or searching. But by the time I saw that video as a viewer, like everybody else, it's 2 or 3 months after the fact.
Right.
So if I did pick up the phone watching that video and saying, "Hey, Jared, this case, you didn't stick a magnet on it, but hey, it could have been a plastic barrel. There's tons of those around nowadays. What's he going to do? He's, out of state, off the case, hundreds of miles away." So I didn't feel it was pertinent to call and say that, because I'm sure he would have seen something on the sonar. I assume that he would have been able to clear that with putting somebody in the water, but they didn't. And I would have assumed that they would have cleared it completely, but in the video it doesn't look like they did.
Okay. Was she ever found, like, later on? Was she ever
I don't think so, no. From what other people are saying, no, she's still not.
Okay.
Found.
Okay. Someone said, I see his personal assets and AWP going through a big audit. I would not be surprised if they are, if they do go through a big audit. Um, have you heard from any of the guys since all this popped off? I know you said you talked to Sam. Did you, I mean, you obviously knew Doug before because he's the one that kind of let you go, I guess. Um, do you talk to any of them? Have you talked to any of the other guys besides Sam?
I've spoken with Doug, Sam, Nug from Exploring with Nug. I've spoken to Jacob from Chaos Divers. I reached out to Britt. I don't think he answered. And I reached out to Carson, and he didn't answer. I did not reach out to Nick or Josh, only because I've never personally met them in person.
Right.
I've only worked with them remotely via, emails and text and, Dropbox work, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Remotely.
Someone said, I'm curious as to whether or not Nick, the AAA guy, was a plant for AWP now, because obviously we can't trust anyone anymore. This is sad. Referencing like the I guess the tow truck guy that said he saw Kylie Rodney the next day after she went missing. I don't think they would do that. Like, I don't think Doug would be a part of that.
I would almost be willing to say Doug wouldn't be a part of that, because that wasn't any of the MO for us, standard operating procedures for us to do that. So there is a lot of times where people would drive up to us at the gas station, pull up to us when we're on the side of the road or at a little pond. Like, people would see that RV and trailer and know and stop and come up to us, whether they were just fans wanting to say hi, take a picture, donate, whatever it was. People would always track us down. So do I feel that it's more likely that somebody from AWP reached out to find somebody, or is it more likely that some random guy reached out to AWP and said, hey, this is what I know, this is what happened, and they just went with it and filmed it?
Right.
I believe the latter, based on my experience with Doug and working with them and what the standard things we did. So I don't believe for a second Doug or this new R diver, Nick, would have done or looked to do something like that. If anything, it's more to believe that a random person approached them with a story, as opposed to them asking somebody to come up with a story.
Right. And several people have asked, do we know if Doug actually resigned? Because he never said that he was resigning. So do you know if he's like actually resigned? I mean, basically, I don't think AWP is going anywhere anymore. I don't know how it would continue. But a lot of people I have noticed are like, everybody's resigning, but Doug hasn't resigned. So do you know anything about that?
I don't know personally, and I didn't ask him about it after the video. I did speak with him via text, but again, he sent me those cryptic messages. So I'm leaning more towards he's trying to distance himself away from Jared, but not ruin any chances of continuing to search or work with law enforcement in the future, because Doug did a lot of work outside of AWP as a representative of AWP with law enforcement, working with the FBI and putting on seminars and stuff. So it seems that Doug is not trying to ruin any opportunities of doing that in the future, or continuing to maybe work with AWP in the future again, I'm assuming, because he loved what he did. He was very heartbroken by this whole situation, and he's doing what he knows is right, and that's denouncing Jared and to just not agreeing with any of or not approving of anything that Jared has done in the past. So this was Doug's way of distancing himself, but trying to keep any future options open, with whatever they may be.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I got, is like, rather than him openly saying like, I'm done, he's denouncing the actions. And it's kind of, I guess they're probably all struggling, on how to even handle it, what they can even say. Also, there is, controversy over whether or not the members knew about this beforehand, because in the emails, Jarrett was like, everybody's reading these emails. Everybody on the team knows what's happening. You feel like he probably just gave you a little bit of a rundown about the rumors because the emails had already happened and he was already kind of taking a back seat because of those emails.
Well, it was already on Reddit. By this point, it's been out on Reddit. So he knew about it. So he knew it's only a matter of time before myself and probably other employees found out about it. And he wanted to get in front of it and to be on the right side of it to say, hey, here's the heads up for it. So if you hear anything, it's no big deal. I already told you about it, kind of thing.
Right.
And I can only assume that he had to have given that same heads up to other people. And they're just not saying that.
That's what you think.
I know maybe I could prove it because I have the text messages that shows the topic of conversation that we just had.
Right. That he told you. So you're assuming surely when he took a step back, he told you, hey, there's some rumors. He didn't go into the rumors. He wasn't like, oh, I'm being accused of SAing my cousins. But he just said there's going to be some rumors that are coming out that you may hear. So, he may have at least told the other guys that, hey, guys, I'm going to hang out with the family. I'm going to kind of take a backseat to everything. There's some things going on within my family, some rumors that you guys may hear, but I'm going to be spending some time with my family over the next few weeks. At least something like that, maybe.
It would have had to have happened because looking back at the timeline of how things progressed, it only makes sense that Jared knew because emails were exchanged about the Reddit posts in February. So the Reddit posts were up before February. The emails went added to Reddit about the accusations because I believe Hero is what they're calling her and his cousin, they posted on Reddit prior to the emails. The Reddit post led to the emails in February. So Jared had known about the Reddit and the emails in February. So then when he's looking to hire me on and gave me the opportunity, the offer in May, that's only 2 or 3 months away from the whole emails about the Reddit posts. So if he's saying in those emails of what he stated, I know at that point, at least the 3 ladies in the office, his wife, his sister-in-law, and the other human resources lady, knew about the emails because, those were the ones that he stated in his videos were scanning any support emails that come in with tips and different leads for other cases. Those were the ladies that were going through and saying, okay, Jared, here's one. Don't worry about this one. They were going through the emails. So they knew about it. But that's what Jared meant when everybody knows about the emails I don't hide. It was talking about those people. Did Nick, Carson, Josh, myself, Doug, did we know about the emails? Probably not. Jared probably didn't say anything because he didn't have nobody had access to those support emails at the time.
That's where people are getting it confused because he's like, oh, everyone here, my email is open. Everybody here knows.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was not to all the divers and all the cameramen and executives. It was just the people in the office that were living in his house pretty much or came over to work for him.
Yeah, because divers didn't have access to his email.
No, but later on, I know for a fact in March, when I went out in 2022, Doug did have access to the support emails because he would state in the videos or live streams that if you have any tips or things, email me at Doug, and Doug would be like, oh, I got a reply from an email about this case we're working tomorrow. So, he did have access to some emails at that point, but was it the same Doug Bishop at AWP email, or was it the support at AWP email?
Right.
So Doug did have his own email. Was it getting forwarded to Doug? Was it going to the support lady first and her forwarding it to Doug? I don't know for sure.
Right. Eddie G said, did you ever witness Jared being disrespectful with remains? Doubt the snowcat incident with deceased articles was the only incident. I'm not for sure what he's referencing. But essentially, did you ever see him being disrespectful with any remains?
No.
Surely not. Hopefully
not. Not any that I was with, especially not on the Simmons case. But there was one video that I saw as a viewer that concerned me was when he was getting some of the personal items out of the vehicle while it was being suspended by a crane on a bridge. he was underneath the car being suspended, which was very dangerous in itself, and he was picking through some items in the car, and he states that there was a purse or something hanging loose that could fall that he was trying to grab. And
I saw that.
The officer up top's telling him, all right, that's enough. Okay, that's good. But he, just kept pushing to try to, and he winds up removing a shoe, which happened to have remains inside the shoe. And I mean, it wasn't disrespectful, but that was just some of the things that, as a viewer, you could see that he would push the line or push the limit a little bit to, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I did see that. It still had like the bones of the foot basically in there. Yeah. Do you guys have any more questions? We've been going for like an hour and a half. So I want to make sure I got all the questions that you guys got. Anthony, do you have anything else you want to add? I mean, I definitely want to have you back. Obviously, things are going to continue. So he has court on the 30th. Now you don't live in the same you don't live in the same area that Jared lives in.
No, but I did. If you want to post my Twitter or YouTube, I did post on Twitter a link to the court hearing. If anybody wants to watch it via the web link, there are directions to a pinned tweet I have on my profile that has the link to the courts for the Zoom. Yep. And where to click on to join the Zoom if anybody wants to watch that live.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try to make sure I'm there for that. That's November 30th. It is going to be like a Zoom hearing, so I'm going to try to make sure that I'm there. You guys follow Anthony at where did it go? 1994 NY. That's over on Twitter.
I can drop my link as well, a YouTube link as well.
And you say YouTube? You're doing YouTube as well?
Yeah.
Okay. He's got a YouTube link as well, and I'll make sure that I'll get that and put that in the description box and everything. Also, like he said earlier, he has some messages. The correspondence between him and Jared, he kept those. So he has messages where Jared references something that's pretty interesting. Right now, he can't release it due to the fact that he needs to make sure that he can because of what Jared is discussing. But when he gets word over whether or not he can release that, he'll release that. Also, I'm
definitely going to release those text messages that prove that he did give me a heads up about those allegations because it shows context of the conversation we just had, as well as the employment contracts and the non-disclosure. So if there is anybody out there that could, that's a lawyer that could say, hey, this does or does not hold water, these guys can go work for other people, maybe the other employees can compare their contracts to the one I post, and if it's the same one, maybe they can feel safer about talking or going elsewhere to work.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I would think Jared has bigger fish to fry than to go after any of his ex-employees for, them trying to carry on and do good work because, like it or not, they were doing good work and they were bringing families closure. And I know the fans would love to see that happen. They would love to see everybody, get back together, regroup, Doug, Nick, you, Josh, all of you guys regroup and under a different name or something, obviously a different name. AWP is tarnished. I mean, unfortunately, that name is tarnished because of Jared. So I know everybody would love to see you guys carry on. Eddie said, did you ever notice Jared being inappropriate or odd with his sister? Did you ever see anything like that?
No, I've never seen them together, so no, I can't. That's a definite no. But I can say on AWP though is this happened a little over a week ago, and when the news did break, the channel had 2.8 million subscribers, and now they're down to 2.78. Mm-hmm. So that's not a very big drop. And from what I could see, that even if Jared is convicted and does spend, decades or time behind bars and has to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on legal fees, I still see that this channel, with all of the videos up and all the residual views and ads on that from the 2.8 million subscribers, I'm sure that he's still going to be set financially when he does step out of jail, if he ever does, because unless this channel is removed, that him and his family are going to be comfortably set on the residuals of this channel for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I just checked his numbers. I actually have him pulled up right now, and he's only lost about 30,000 subscribers since news broke. And even yesterday, he made over $1,000. He made like $1,400 yesterday, just from content they already have up. The day before that, over $1,000. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. So it's $1,000 a day from residuals that he's getting. So 30,000 a month. He's getting residuals for that channel just to sit there and for him to never post another video.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he's going to be well off for the many, many years, I feel like, regardless of the outcome of any legal battles he may have. So if he is scorned or vindictive, there's absolutely, he has the financial means to go after every single one of his former employees if he chose to. And a lot of these guys are just average people that don't have the resources that Jared has. So even if Jared did want to fight them with a lawsuit that was losing for Jared, he could cost these guys so much money that it would hurt them and it wouldn't bother him a bit.
That would be so sad if he did that, but we don't know.
That's why people are scared.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because everybody thought they knew Jared to be this great guy, but then he's not. Look what he did to, allegedly what he did to his cousin, his sister, several other female relatives. And then hearing how he took money from like, the modest older ladies, like, do y'all need gas money? And he's like, yeah, sure. And they gave him $50 and he just opened up the RV door and just stuck it in the door. And there was a big wad of cash there. He didn't really need it, but just, hearing more of how he could be now. Also seeing that little video that he made when he basically offered Carson a job. Was it Carson that he offered a job? Carson worked for like an editing company and they were using the company, and then he offered Carson to like come along with AWP, and he sent them like a video basically saying like, you don't want to go to war with me over him, like let us have him, or like I've read you guys' contracts and non-disclosure and it's BS. Like if you guys don't want to let him come to work for us, like we'll take you to court and we'll win, essentially.
And yeah, I did see that. And again, people want to say, and even myself, they say, oh, I never saw anything that would make me feel like he was a bad person behind the camera, off the camera, because the same personality he was on the camera, he was off the camera, 99% of the time or every time that I could see. But that is how people are going to judge character. And they think, oh, he had good character. But then when you put on how he treated Sam, how he treats some of the people for the money, what he did to me as a person for employment, not giving somebody the job, to me, those actions show one's true inner motives. Because if he was such a caring person and cared about these families and cared about their losses and, wept the way he does on these live streams, if he truly cared about people the way he says he does and wants to help people, he would never have done half of the things that he's done to his past employees or myself or Sam or any other viewers that he may have taken advantage of monetarily or emotionally. So to me, those are the true things that allows somebody to see his real motives or character, as opposed to him pretending to care or pretending things, because that's the only thing I can see it as he's pretending. If he's doing this to people publicly and he's stating this publicly, well, one of those two things is true. They can't both be true.
Right. Someone brought up, and this has been brought up a couple of times, is the reward money that Ryan Upchurch gave him. That he gave it specifically to Ryan Upchurch, and it was not like spread amongst the members that helped find Kylie Rodney. And now Ryan Upchurch wants the money back. Have you heard about that?
I have heard that story, and I know a little bit about it, but I can touch on reward money was in the contracts as well. Reward money was spoken about prior to employment, and he does say and did state publicly that he would never ask for the rewards if families, and it was given to AWP, that he would split it with whoever was on the road for that recovery. So that was put in there, and people knew about that. New employees knew that if there was a reward found, if you were on that recovery, you were supposed to split it. And he even stated, he said, I wouldn't split it. If I'm not on the recovery, I don't get it. It's whoever's on the recovery. So there was talks of rewards being split with the employees if they were to be given that reward. But he did state he would not fight them. But if he's based on his words of what he told me and what's in the contracts, that a true reward would have been split. Any donations would have just gone to AWP. And if it was truly spent and given to him as a donation, I don't think there's anything Ryan can do legally has any ramifications to that money because it's a donation. It's gone.
Right.
Regardless of what it was spent on, that's where I would like to think morally that misappropriation of funds would come into charities and donations. So hopefully there's some way around that because it was misappropriated. But if it wasn't, that money's long gone. If it just sat in the AWP account to fund AWP, there's nothing he could do with that. But if he pulled out that $100,000 to use for the $500,000 deposit he put on that new house, then maybe he would have some ramifications because he misappropriated that donation.
Right. And I don't even know what it was gifted for, like a donation for finding Kylie, or was it a reward money? Was it reward money?
No.
I don't even.
Ryan went on publicly and stated that if anybody finds Kylie, he would donate his car. I think he had a Charger or a Hellcat or something, a car that was worth, 60, 80 grand. That was a very expensive car. And he said, if anybody finds Kylie, you could have my car or I'll give you $100,000. Those were what he stated. And then I think a couple of days later or a week later, AWP gets involved, finds them, and then he supposedly went ahead with his word, like you said, and gave him a $100,000 donation. So
yeah,
that's where it stemmed. That's what it stemmed from.
That is crazy. Eddie says, last question. Did you notice when AWP or Jared, started losing its soul and started turning into a documentary, like drama documentary type of situation, but with the drama, like added drama?
That started day one when he found the first victim in the car, because this channel started real organically. It was Jared out there diving in lakes and rivers looking for sunglasses, cleaning up treasure and dirt from garbage from rivers. One of those trips, he stumbled across a car. Gets a lot of views, gets a lot more traffic, continues to do that. Says, hey, let's look for more cars. We got a lot of traction on that video. At that point, Doug pulled that first car out. He continues to look for more vehicles, calls Doug, pulls out more cars, gets more traction. One day he happened to find a vehicle that there just happened to be somebody inside that vehicle. And that video is still live. Sam was on that video. There's a bunch of fans and friends of AWP all hanging out, having a good old time, laughing, joking it up, yanking the car out of the river, thinking they're doing a great thing. And there happens to be a body inside. And then they stop filming. Then that video goes viral, gets way more traction. And then he said, well, maybe we should start looking for missing people in cars. And then I noticed when I left Tennessee from that trip, I had said to Jared, I'm like, hey, man, I live in New York. We should get you guys out. I'm sure we can find a lot of cool stuff in, the rivers around New York City, the East River, Harlem River. Like, we could go find some cool stuff. He's like, call me when you find bodies in cars. Let me know when you find cars with bodies. Like, that's what he wanted, because he knew that was the traction. That was the views. That was what was going to get more notification. And that's, from my opinion, it was when he found that first victim in that car, he knew that was the formula. And he slowly built this formula over time to where he could package this out in a 40-minute video and give the viewers a great documentary or sad story or whatever you want to call it.
Right. I mean, he literally went from just recording himself diving, finding anything.
Sunglasses, bicycles, scooters, iPads, iPhones, it mattered. Whatever he could find, he was going to film it, and that got views. People watched it.
And then it was found a car, more views. Then it was found a car with a body. Oh my goodness, that went viral. So he said, we're going to stick with this. We're going to continue looking for cars with bodies in it. So then did he start like searching missing people cases to kind of?
Yes, and he started asking viewers to submit tips on people that are missing with the cars. And they said that's our specialty, is the underwater, because when he found the first car and called Doug to pull it out, he said, well, how do I find more cars? I can't just swim in rivers and randomly stumble onto one. That's when he got the sonar and started looking into the sonars. And that's how he started finding vehicles on sonars. And he would just, oh, here's a car. And then he started finding people, and then he would get tips from viewers and ask viewers to send him tips on missing people with cars. And he knew that was his bread and butter. And he would tell people, don't send me missing people that are without a car. He says, our specialty is underwater search and recovery. So he would look for those specifically.
That's really interesting. I mean, he went with what made the money. So, I mean, I guess you can't blame him there. I mean, it's good that they had a good purpose behind it. But if he would have never, he wasn't going to go back from, finding cars with bodies in it to looking for just junk anymore. I mean, he was going to continue with what made the money. Someone said, were you there when they found Jed Hall? That was an emotional one. That one
I was not on that case.
Yeah, that one was a really sad one. Okay, you guys, we've been going for an hour and a half. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. But thank you all so much for your questions. Anthony, I appreciate you so much. We've been talking for a few days now and trying to get this situated. And I'm so sorry that we had problems in the beginning. And I had you on the phone for I don't even know how long, asking, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? And you were such a trooper with me. But I definitely want to bring you back and continue asking you questions. And after you find out what all you can release in terms of the agreement that you signed, the NDA, the non-compete form, and all of that. I even asked you, hey, was your salary at least decent? Because Jared gets a lot of, we've heard that Jared obviously seems kind of stingy with his money.
well, I can't tell you, when he offered me the job, we had talked about, what I was made. I told him, I was like, listen, man, I'd love to do what you guys do. I wouldn't ask for a lot. This is what I'm making now. And that was discussed. And when he finally did call and offer me the job in May, he matched what I was making. He never gave me more, increased my pay. He matched what I was making. And to me, in all fairness, it seemed like a win to me, because I would only be working 30-something weeks out of the year, as opposed to working a full year for that same salary. So it seemed okay to me, but it wasn't like he was doing me any favors and offering me a good salary for the type of work that I'd be doing away from home. I felt like I should have been offered more, especially based on my experience and past work I've done with him.
Right. And hopefully one day, when you can double check to see what you can share, if we can look over that. And you have been on with Ike Mel as well, and you did say you're going to, continue going on with Ike Mel also. I'm going to release the text. I spoke with the district attorney in Utah's that's prosecuting the case. I spoke to his assistant, and he was out to lunch today. I'm waiting for him to return my call. Once I get the response back from them on if they want the text messages or not, and if not, I'm going to release them. So then I'm just waiting on to find out from my lawyer if I can or cannot release the contracts. But I believe the text messages should be released soon, as well as the contracts. But I have nothing to hide, and I want to release all this so I can prove to people that what I've stated in these interviews is all backed up by documents. Right. Yeah, absolutely. So you guys, Cece, my moderator Cece, just posted Anthony's channel. Also, you guys can go follow him on Twitter. But we're going to have him back on because, especially, once this goes to court, I want to continue to have him on because he did have that work relationship with Jared, and then he kind of got screwed over by Jared. So it's cool to talk to someone that knows Jared firsthand. I've also reached out to Nick. He did respond, but I wasn't able to respond back to him after he responded because I was trying to get everything set up with this today. But Anthony, thank you so much. I'm going to be in contact with you through text messages. You guys, thank you for coming and hanging out with us and having all the great questions. But I had a really good time on this stream and really enjoyed asking you all the questions and hearing everything that you had to say. We're going to continue covering this topic with Jared from AWP, you guys. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. When he goes to his first court appearance on the 30th, I'm going to try to make sure I'm there in that Zoom call. And like Anthony said, he has that posted on his Twitter where you guys can go see. It's kind of open to the public from my understanding. So with the link and the information, I think you can be in it. So I'm definitely going to try. But I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up. Go follow Anthony over on Twitter. Go check out his YouTube channel. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good night, guys.
Bye-bye.